What is going on? You are listening to TAGSPodcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast. This is episode 552. I am your host, Steve V, alongside Jeremy Ross Lopez. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm really good. How are you?
Doing good over here. Thank you so much. And of course, joining us, Kodi, Maurice, Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darling. I'm just here in Kansas watching the cows go by, so you know how that goes.
I don't know how it actually goes, but we'll take your word for it. Good to hear your guys' voices on this Monday when we record this. So much to get into. First off, I had a great weekend, and I was at the Eagle on Saturday night. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good. I just moved my microphone. So, okay, yeah. I was at the Eagle here in New York City, and I wanted to shout out to Calvin from New Jersey, who listens to us. And it was so hectic. And Jeremy, you can attest to this. Saturdays can be really crazy, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's like the craziest day of the week.
Totally. And I don't typically go, but since I'm going to be going out of town, I'm like, let me get this in. I'll tell you why it was great. One of them was running into Calvin on the staircase going down as he was going up. And he's like, Steve? And I said, yes. And he said, I listened to you guys, Tags podcast. I'm like, oh my gosh. So thank you, Calvin. It was really fun running into you. Calvin from New Jersey. Saturday night, though, was crazy. And often when I go on a night like this where there's so many people and it's packed, I just kind of I had some great experiences. One, I caught up with my bartender friend, which we all know. Shout out to Gregory.
Hey,
But
boo.
I also at one point was going to go into the moment I got there. A guy that works he's like cleans up the glasses and all that. He was like, your boyfriend's here, meaning this guy that I sometimes hang out with, that I'm actually going to go out tonight after the show to dinner, but we're still in that very slow hangout phase. And I was like, okay, we are probably going to dinner, but and so I didn't want to run over to him. I ended up wanting to go to this dark room area, but it was just a madhouse filled with so many people. And I said, forget it. I pulled myself over up on the second floor to this area where I met this lovely man who he and I chatted. He was sitting next to me. I met his husband. They are old timers that used to go to the original Eagle that was around from 1980. So we were having a great time. And then lo and behold, an ex-boyfriend of mine that I'm still close with, Gary, shows up and he's like, hi, with his new boyfriend. And it was really so wonderful to run into him because I adore him. And it was great meeting his current boyfriend. They've been together 3.5 years. Everybody in the bar was talking about, are you going to the black party? Are you going to the black party? I was like, I didn't even know it was happening. And those of you listening, Black Party was an iconic party here that, as opposed to the white party, obviously everyone's in black, but it had a lot of BDSM culture, and it used to be at Roseland.
So fun.
I was reminded, though, by my ex that even before that, it was at the Saint for you old timers, which is a classic bar. And no, I was not going to the black party, but apparently it was on and everybody wanted to know about it. But it was just a fun night of a lot of crazy shenanigans, including, I just want to share this one interesting story. So I'm talking to my bartender friend, Gregory, and this guy orders a drink next to me and he's fiddling around for his money. And Gregory had a chance to like get other people's money, make other drinks. The guy's still fiddling around. I'm looking at the guy like, what are you doing? Just pull out the money, or what are you doing? He walks away from the drink is in front of him. He just walks away. And Gregory was like shouting out like, hey. So I turn around and grab the guy on his shoulder and was like, excuse me. And he's like, what? And I said, the drink. He's like, what are you stopping me for? I said, because the bartender was asking, what are you doing? This is your drink. And that the man was so livid at me. I swear he was going to punch me.
What?
He was
Oh
like,
my
what are you, his
God.
mother? Why are you? I said, no, but you ordered this drink and you're walking away.
Oh no.
sorry. And he's like, well, I was going to the ATM. And then he's screaming, and then he told Gregory, the bartender, that. And it's like, how is he supposed to know that?
Yeah.
And yeah, and it went on from there with him, but I swear he was
Oh
going to hit me,
Lord.
but we were not backing. You know how they can be, Jeremy, on a
Yeah,
Saturday.
I've seen him jump over the bar to catch people that are like trying to be slick.
Exactly. So don't come for us, because we will come back at you harder.
That's right.
That's the lesson. Okay, well, we we have been doing a whole thing on soft launching and hard launching your new beau, and we couldn't help but ask our co-host Jeremy, did you soft launch your new beau on Instagram recently, and what can you tell us?
Yes, I did. So, we had a really fun weekend in the city, Boston, last weekend, and went to see the Share Show. We went to brunch. I finally got to meet his sister, and so it was a really good time. And I felt like it was just like the right time because it's been uh, a few months now, and we've gone on like a bunch of dates and had a bunch of like uh, sleepovers and dinners and shows and concerts and stuff. So it just felt like a good time to post him on social media and not be like super dramatic about it, but just like post a bunch of fun stuff that we've done together.
I love it. And Kodi and I were being sleuths that we are, only because you had mentioned to us privately that he was a ginger. And that's why we were like, okay, I think he just soft launched his new beau. So congratulations on that. And
Thank
we wish you
you.
well. He's adorable. You guys looked really good together.
Super cute.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And was it, by the way, was it share, like share in concert?
It wasn't a concert, it was the Share Show, so it's a story about her life, and the singers were really, really talented and actually sounded exactly like her.
Oh, wow. I wonder if it was the one that was on Broadway, because I saw that.
Yes, it was on Broadway. It was
Okay,
Broadway here in Boston
got it.
too.
We loved it. I loved it. It's excellent, and I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. So nice. Okay, good. Soft launch in there. All right. Well, let's get into some hot topics, and we have to talk about Laith Ashley. You all know him, the model, trans model, was
Mm-hmm.
recently banned from TikTok Live over supposed sexual activity. Which, by the way, Laith was not doing at all. And he he says, this is why I don't post on here anymore unless I'm talking about my dog. The moment I step on here and just talk, you get kicked off. You can't go live anymore. That because he was actually the reason he was taken down was because they said you were putting sexual activity on there, and he was not. He was just simply talking about his current what's going on. He says, I guess sitting down and talking is considered sexual activity when you're trans, he wrote in the video. He
Mm.
says, fuck these apps. And on an Instagram, Laith provided further context on what he was discussing in his video. He said, I was talking about the actors strike last year. Then I was talking about how a lot of LGBT content creators are unable to make a living creating content because brands are no longer hiring us for deals. In a follow up, Ashley described being upset about the silencing of trans people in general. Quote, it's bigger than social media. It's not just TikTok. It's not Meta, Instagram, whatever. I don't give a fuck about that, he said. It's the silencing, and it's happening at every level. It's erasure. It's the victimizing folks, then blaming them for their own oppression. That's what's bothering me. That's why I am angry. This is like really awful because, our community in general, I think, gets taken down. I've said before, our Instagram, I've tried two Instagram accounts. One was at Talk About Gay Sex. That got taken down, and we had built it up. So, we were at 35,000 followers. And then I did another one after that at Tags Podcast. And of course, that one got taken down for just talking about sex. And I just decided after that, forget it. I'm not going back. Much like Laith, I was angry too. But what do you think about this, Jeremy, when you hear, is it targeting our community? And does it make you, what do you think about TikTok and social media towards our community?
I really think it's awful, and they should have some sort of parameter or guidelines in which shutting it down would be considered based off of like a better filter system of especially if the person's just sitting down and talking to the audience. It's like that doesn't make any sense, and obviously they need some sort of filter for like haters or people that are just going to report it just because it's a trans individual or someone that's LGBT. It's really ridiculous, and I think that we need that in all social media platforms for all of us and safety.
Yeah, it always seems like we're the targets of the first to be taken down. I mean, Kodi, it's interesting because Congress recently was just talking about taking away TikTok because of China, who owns it, because China may have access to our profiles. Does this just make you want to just not even go on the platform anymore? And what do you say about Laith?
Well, I very rarely go on TikTok anyway. I was thinking about joining it, but I'm sorry, posting more on it, but I think that I'm not going to post on it that much anymore because the silencing of our LGBTQ plus voices is just not okay. It needs to stop as so much because as far as I'm concerned, this happens way too often. I feel like it's the right wing people, they can get away with anything basically. And when we want to speak our opinions and our minds and things of that nature, it just gets pulled down. We get flagged. We get any type of punishment that comes along with expressing ourselves and being who we are because the right wingers, everything is all Bible Belt, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like the hatred that Laith was talking about by so many towards our community. They don't seem to get taken down, but then him sitting, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, I would be, and if you heard his response, he was livid, but I don't blame him. I was livid. We weren't doing that, but just when ours was taken down. And there isn't like a department that you can call up like the airlines and complain. It's like, good luck if you even try and he did also try and put up a response to it in which went nowhere, right? So it's just like as good as nothing. So I feel for him. And yeah, TikTok's not my favorite either. We have an account, but I don't really always understand the algorithms either on how some of our posts do better than others. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Moving
And it's,
on.
oh,
Yeah,
go ahead.
go
I was going to
ahead.
say it's such a shame because it's such a useful tool to get your name out there. So, but as long as they're flagging everybody for doing practically nothing, then it's not really worth it, right?
You know what I use it for is like I honestly check restaurants through there, and it's a really good tool for that. I know that sounds like corny, but
No.
when you
No.
type in the name of restaurants, they have like really good videos and clips of people that have been there. And that's like a great tool. And then also, if you want to do any like at home DIY projects, it's perfect to just type into TikTok and find like a quick tutorial on how to do certain things like peel and stick wallpaper and painting and stuff like that. It's actually really cool and helpful, and it's different from YouTube because it's just shorter
Yeah.
sequenced videos rather than watching like 20 minutes of video with someone talking the whole time.
Right. Recipes are also good. My friend
Yeah.
sends me a lot of really good. We love Asian, Japanese
Oh, fashion too. I
fashion.
You can type
Yeah.
in like the most recent collection for Zara, like the spring summer, and see like what people are buying or just like what trends are coming out and stuff like that, which is cool.
And it's
Absolutely. And then
also,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
I was going to say it's also very good for discovering new indie artists and music. So
Hmm.
I've been thinking about using it for that, but
Yes, exactly. And for our sex progressive listeners that want to post anything on that, do a deep dive like I've done for my OnlyFans to find out the best ways to promote your adult content. Not on those, but you can actually use there's all kinds of Reddit threads and YouTubes
ooh,
and different articles out there that how to use these different social media platforms to direct them, say, to your linked tree or to your actual Twitter account, which then could lead to your adult content that you want to get out there. And there's a method to the madness. I've gone through it. So for all those that are in sex work, there is a way. You just have to kind of be a sleuth about it and kind of go indirectly, but you can often use some of these platforms. It's just you got to figure out the ways. But there's tons of articles out there. Just do a deep dive and you will figure it out, like I did. Moving on, and a follow up to rapper Big Dipper. You weren't on this episode, Jeremy, but we were talking about rapper Big Dipper, who was on the podcast Sloppy Seconds, and he maybe overshared because everybody was coming for him. He was essentially talking about hookups and the addresses to that he gives to potential tricks when they're coming over, and he'll often give the address to the apartment across the street so he can check them out and see if he's into them before he goes through with this hookup. Well, you can imagine people did not like that, and everyone was coming for him, including one of our listeners that wrote recently to us, sinfully wrote, and I have it here. He says, also, another issue with sending people to the wrong address is that it could be putting them into an unsafe situation. In this day and age where people get killed for pulling into somebody's driveway, sending someone to the wrong address can have dire consequences, especially if it's someone showing up at someone's house at 1 a.m. And again, from our listener, Sinfully, thank you so much. He says, this happened to me back in my high school days, chatting with guys in the AOL M for M chat rooms. I remember that.
Oh my goodness.
And then printing out directions. Remember that on MapQuest. This guy sent me to the wrong address, and the guy who lived at the house had a gun pointing at me when he opened the door. Wow. That is insanity. And so Big Dipper got the message because everybody has been coming for him. And he said, we're going to unpack this on an upcoming episode. What happened over the week? We're going to talk about my story and get into why it's fucked up, he said. So if you want to hear a longer version, you can listen to that. But he said he gave a heartfelt apology on there. I know you heard it, Kodi, on how he didn't realize it at the time. What he was doing was putting a lot of people in unsafe situations, and how he's learned from this. He's taken it all into account. He apologized. I thought it was heartfelt. He said it was a learning opportunity and something that he won't do again. And I know that I definitely let some people down with that clip. I don't take that lightly, so I'm sorry for that. Kodi, I'll start with you because you knew this whole story. What do you think of the apology from Big Dipper?
Oh, I definitely enjoyed that he took into account how harmful his actions were. I mean, we've all done things that were not really that the smartest or the kindest when we were younger, and hopefully we learn from those mistakes as we grow and as people let us know that that is not okay. Because I feel like in his mind he didn't even know that it wasn't okay. I mean, why would he
Right.
share it unless he thought that it was cool what he did? But I feel like the response that he got from people, he didn't take offense to it, and he didn't get defensive with his speech. He actually heard what people were saying, and like you said, he provided a sincere apology for it. I saw the video and I completely felt like he was completely sincere in his remorse for what he did. And I'm glad that they're having a more in-depth conversation, and I can't wait to listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy, when you hear this about what Big Dipper originally was doing, and I mean, if you saw the whole clip on the podcast, his co hosts or the people that were interviewing him were like, wait, what? Why do you do this? That's kind of fucked up. He was very uh, not combative over it, but he was definitely defending his position. Like, yeah, I want to see what they look like. I don't think he really got the significance until social media came back after him. I will say, I also watched the clip of his apology, and I've seen a lot of these kinds of apology clips where it doesn't seem like they're really that sincere. It does look like he was, and it looks like they're going to follow up. What do you say to all of this mess?
I mean, it's definitely like a hot mess, but I do think that if he apologized, then I mean, you have to accept the apology, and he probably understood a different point of view after listening to it and then taking into consideration what other people had to say. I mean, I think that I've done something similar in the past, but not any one specific other address. I think meeting people out in public or meeting them in the vicinity of where you live makes a little bit more sense, and giving them an idea of somewhere close but not exact to where your physical address is, but not someone else's physical address, would be a better option to, if you want a first look rather than approaching the person. Then I think that makes more sense. And it could even be like Starbucks or a mall or
Yep.
just something close by that's
A
like,
bar.
yeah, that is less of one on one if that's not what you're ready for, and also doesn't put the other person at harm. Because I do think, like, giving, I wouldn't give someone else's exact address that isn't mine just in case you get the wrong person. Because I can only imagine, like, if it's at 10 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning, like, people get crazy and really angry to be bothered, even just for like, I don't know, now people don't look for directions, but just like if someone's lost or has a flat tire or whatever, anything. It's just
Yeah,
like I think it would make more sense for somewhat more of a public situation thing if you're really trying to screen them beforehand.
definitely public. And as I was saying before on a past episode, most people that I know, when I meet up with them, even when I was in LA and I was meeting up with an OnlyFans creator, we were going to collaborate. They just gave the address the day of and not the apartment number. And so then they came down and met me at the door. You could do that too with a partner that you're planning on hooking up with. Go down to the front, meet them. I'll meet you outside to see if you know what I mean. And if you're not into them for whatever reason, you could just be honest like that and say, I'm not into them. That way, you don't give like the exact apartment number and all that stuff, too, is another good
Hmm.
way. I also think that this is going to be a good discussion and follow up just to put that out there. I mean, it got one of our listeners to tell his story. It's going to probably be a larger conversation about how our culture is about meeting people and hooking up. And so, in the end, I think that Big Dipper, his apology is accepted, but it's a larger conversation that we need to continue to have because it's only going to create more smarter decisions and people sharing their stories, and we're all going to learn from each other. So I think in the end, yeah, it's a hot mess, but it's going to be a great learning opportunity for on a multitude of levels, which I think is great. So another follow up that we wanted to talk about, that just the story that keeps giving and giving, is Lukas Gage, who, as we all have reported on, was married for a mere 6 months to Chris Appleton, the hairstylist to the stars like Jennifer Lopez, to your girl Kim Kardashian, Jeremy, and
Hmm.
she actually officiated the wedding. And he was recently, as we were talking about on Watch What Happens Live recently, where of course Andy Cohen had to grill him. What were you thinking? What was going on? And as we reported last time, he was really honest, actually, Lukas Gage, and saying that, I I'm very spontaneous and this was not my best hour, and but he also has an NDA. But the latest iteration of all this is he wants to give a big apology, not to Kim Kardashian for wasting her time officiating the wedding, but also to Shania Twain of all people. And you ask, why Shania Twain? Well, they had gotten her to actually perform Still, what's that song that she does?
Still
That's
the one.
Still the One. Okay, got it. Apparently
And
the
the
gays like Shania, and she sang that at their wedding, and he said, "I want to apologize to Shania Twain for wasting her time." He said, "I mean, we're still holding on. You're still the one that's after like 3 weeks." That was unhinged. This is Lucas saying that was like the biggest waste of her time. But I love you, Shania. I'm really sorry about that. And I think to have a sense of humor about this is really good. He also, when asked about his hair, did Chris Appleton do your hair during that time? And what was with those faux or fur coats that they wore at their wedding. He said it wasn't my idea, and apparently he could talk about that post NDA, and it was the worst my hair ever looked, is how he described it. And so, throwing a little shade over to his ex, who, by the way, Chris has been flaunting around, not soft launching like you, Jeremy, but hard launching his new man on the beaches of Santa Monica. I mean, nobody does that. That's crazy. So I'm team Lukas 100% on this. But Jeremy, we talked a lot about it before, but what do you think about his apology to Shania and how he's handling this post divorce?
I think it's smart the way that he answered it very truthfully, and I'm I know it's like not super nice to say, but I'm not very surprised. I think all of us thought it was like very hot and heavy and a lot all at once and really fast. And I think that he was very honest about not really having the best level of judgment at that time.
Right.
And I think that apologizing to everyone that was involved was smart, and it was also like he did end up signing an NDA, so there's only so much he can disclose, which I think he did it very tastefully. And Andy can easily get like juice out of people and drill you with like the right questions and stuff, putting you on the spot. And I think that he handled that really well.
I agree. Absolutely. Kodi, how do you weigh in on the latest, his apology to Miss Shania Twain?
Well, Shania deserves all the flowers and
Here
all the
we go.
apologies.
Accenture, a huge fan.
I love Shania Twain,
Oh,
man.
I knew this was coming.
And I mean, I am in Kansas now. Why the hell not? I think she responded and she said, "If you're not in it for love, then you're out of there." And that's one of her other songs that I think is her first
Oh,
single ever. And
look at
it
her.
was, I know, right? Such a queen response right there. So go ahead, Miss Shania. As far as Chris and Lukas are concerned, I feel like both of them are reacting out of hurt from their relationship. And I think that Chris Appleton is probably doing it in both of them are probably doing it in not in a very harmful way. But you know what? That's what you do when you're hurt from a relationship. You act out of hurt. Lukas is probably being as nice as he can be, but I do think that they are going to be in this space for a little while longer, and it makes me sad to see it, but it's also kind of entertaining, honestly.
It is. I don't think he really owes her an apology because I am sure she got a paycheck for this
Oh,
because you
definitely.
can almost hire any celebrity performer to do I think Rihanna was the latest to go to somewhere over like the Middle East or somewhere to do this, or India to do this, like, I mean, almost $1 billion wedding, and everybody is available for a paycheck. I mean, if you pay for it. And I don't know that she really knew either one of them. So she's probably like, you didn't waste my time. I got my paycheck and, thanks. I mean, but you didn't owe me it, I think. But she has a good sense of humor too. And I think it's all, he's handling it really well. And again, I'm team Lukas Gage. So for the record, that's where I stand. Let's talk about dating. And as I'm going on a date tonight with a guy that I've gone on a few in the past and looking forward to this after the show, a recent psychotherapist gave 8 dating tips for gay men. And I'll read you some of them. And it's for people looking for, are you looking for long term? Here are some tips based on 18 years as a psychotherapist working exclusively with gay, and he's the founder of the Gay Therapy Center. Um, and Adam Blum is the name of him. And so, generally speaking, women are socialized to connect, but men not so much. And that's why they are so lonely. I would argue, though, gay men, we socialize a lot more. So, here's some things of a successful date. Looks aren't everything. If you read and watch social media targeted towards gay men, you get the sense that all we care about is big dicks and pecs. I mean, Sort of. Well,
Is there
these
anything
posts.
else?
Well, these posts may get our attention in the digital age and make good money for advertisers. They do not correlate as primary features of a lasting relationship. So, here's some dating tips, dating apps tips. At some point, every dater will hate the dating apps. You'll find criminals and liars, but they can be useful as well. Gay men are a minority, which means we've got fewer potential mates, and you will run out of potential matches. So, I do like this because he says if you just focus on them, you're like, match OkCupid and Hinge, you're going to run out of it. But if you just focus on Grindr, Sniffies, and Scrub, you're only going to get probably more hookups. So if you limit the time you spend texting by moving as quickly as possible to a brief in-person date, you'll avoid wasting a lot of your life texting away. And this is something that my sister often says too. She doesn't want a pen pal, and I've always loved that. Let's meet. Because for the people that are endlessly wanting to chat, it's like, no, move it over. If you're interested in somebody, I like this tip. If you're vibing with somebody on any app, and it could be any of the ones I listed, set up a time and a place, see what their schedule is. And if they don't, and you can see they're just going in, then you can say, hey, I'm not looking for a pen pal and I'm looking to meet up. So that will put people on the spot. The myth of immediate chemistry. The film industry, he writes, has convinced us that we should feel an immediate desire for our partner. However, research tells us that only 11% of couples have a love at first sight moment. Most successful couples start with mild attraction that builds over time. I like that. Finding gay men who want to date. And this is important too, because gay men who are part of various organizations have already shown that they have some capacity to commit to something. So we aren't totally in the realm of not wanting to commit. And you also have to think, he says, of your profiles and your life as marketing, like get that marketing mindset. So expand exposure. Marketers and daters need to post ads. You got to go to events. You have to talk to strangers. And this one in particular, and then I want to hear from you. I'll read a couple more, but I was listening to a whole thing about why it was a new Gallup poll over that just came out that said 30 and under men in particular here in the US are more depressed than ever before and not as happy. And a lot of it they said has to do with being online so much and video games and not socializing. And I've always been a very sociable person. Obviously, I'm chatty Cathy over here. But during the pandemic, I made a conscious effort to really get to know my neighbors. And whenever I leave the house, I've been doing ClassPass. I just chat, talk. I was talking to some strangers at the Eagle the other day, like I was just mentioning before. Lovely. And I just think that is the key to happiness in many ways. But that is also the key to maybe finding dates. When you hear about some of this, Jeremy, how did you meet your beau, and what are your tips for dating advice?
I mean, I think that it's always good to let it be organic, and uh, the my boyfriend that I'm dating, we met from Instagram, actually, from DM messaging back and forth, and we were chatting for quite some time, and a lot of things came up just with travel and summer and family and holidays and all that stuff. So we didn't end up getting together for a while, but in the interim, we like connected over like music and just like things that we posted, and he listened to the podcast, so he knew a little bit of backstory about me and knew that I was like local, somewhat nearby. And I think that letting things be organic and going on a first date and just taking things as they come is the best way to do it. I also think that the one thing that we've been really good at so far is just communication of like what our needs are, what we should work on, like just things like that. I think is always a constant from the beginning, and I think that it helps better our relationship that we're trying to build, and it also helps us get to know each other a lot more on a more in-depth level than just topical. And we also really practice well at being present. So not on our phones a lot when we're together, and just paying attention and listening to what each other has to say, and uh, memory retention of what we've said before. And I don't know, it's been really a breath of fresh air to bond over music and clothing and interior design and food especially. And it's just something that I think you can't think too much about it. I think that it's either going to happen or it's not. And for me especially, like I haven't really dated that much, and I haven't been in many serious relationships. So I think that there's not really many wrongs or rights. You just have to take your time, and also remember you should always do what makes you the most happy.
I
And
love all those tips. And you're so
right.
right. I mean, connecting and being in the moment and pushing the phone away are so vital. Kodi, I mean, I was listening to The View the other day, and there was a study they were talking about how women also, they were talking about straight men and or men in general aren't as happier. And this was even a different study than the Gallup poll that I was talking about a minute ago. And the women were saying, well, us women, we have more friendships and we're easier. And Anna Navarro was quick to say, and so did Sunny. She says, but let's add gay men into the mix too, because in general, most of us gay men are really good at cultivating friendships and bonds, and we look out for our friends. And when we do get together with our friends, we're in the moment and we're really like, how are you doing? Which use those skills that is innate, I think, in our gayness to find a partner. And when you're on your date, treat it like that. Share common interests. We are a really fun community that has a lot of interests, that we're really interesting people, I feel, and use those skills that are inherent in being gay. And if you don't have those skills, you can get them just by really, I mean, talk to everybody. Talk to the man at the flower shop. You're at the groceries. I do this all the time.
Wow.
I talk to everybody. I get it from my mom because when I used to go shopping with my mom, and she knew the guy that bagged the groceries. She knew the guy that at the produce. She knew the guy, and she's such a chatty Cathy and wants to hear everyone's story. And she still tells my sister and I, well, no, but the woman at the grocery store, she was telling me that blah blah blah. And I said, oh my God, Mom, I'm becoming you, because all I do is I talk to everybody. But I really think it's the key to happiness, but also the key to meeting more people, which meeting more people can then lead to more dates and meeting the one. So I don't know, Kodi, how do you weigh in, and what's your advice on all this?
I agree with you. I think that I don't really talk to that many people, honestly. But I found that
Which
I
is so
find
strange because you're so like, effervescent.
thank you. Thank you so much. But yeah, I don't talk to when I'm out, I don't talk to the guy who bags the groceries. I'm like, can you just do that really quick for me? And I say thank you, of course, but I don't start up a conversation with them. But I feel like if you talk to people and you put yourself out there, then that is cultivating those skills. And I feel like I have gotten a lot of those skills from hanging out with my friends. So I see what you're saying 100%. And I think that is a way to make sure that you're invested in people and you're connecting with other people. As far as the article goes, I feel like half of those things I am not doing. I feel like I'm dating wrong as far as I'm concerned. Uh, I I think that for me personally, and this is kind of piggybacking on what Jeremy said about everybody having their own style. I feel like for me, instant connection is something that I felt before, and I know that it's real for me. And I think that that is how I know that I am actually interested in somebody. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I also think that uh, it's not for everybody. So I feel like I'm part of the 11% basically. And I think that when as far as making sure that you are in connection with somebody else, you have to, I agree with you guys that you have to put your phone down, make sure you're invested, and just make sure you're there fully. And that way you can really bridge those bonds and have them strengthen. And that is the core to a relationship as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I agree with you with it. Like a connection, I think they were just saying it could grow over time. That if you just
Yeah.
go over, I was talking to you offline before Jeremy even got on, and I was saying I'm working out at all these different gyms right now and with ClassPass, and I had like 3 different crushes all in one day, and those were like lustful. They didn't look at me though; it was just me having this lustful thing happen. And it's like the ones that I have been interested in chemically, it maybe I was interested and then it grew even more just getting to know them more by talking to them. That to me can increase. But lust, of course, I have, but that's a whole separate topic, I think. And yeah, I mean, there's an interesting sidebar that you sent over in our thread in Instagram earlier today, Kodi, and it had to do with I think, gay. I'm not sure. It's a show that, in a recent episode of Awkward Dates, South African star Laysway, is that how I say it, Kodi?
I
Went
have
on a
no idea.
Okay, well, you sent this to me, but went on a
Yeah.
date with a straight man and attempted to have him pay for his date because of his masculine energy. Well, gays, how would you handle this? Is what the question was. And it does bring up the question, who should pay for the date? And in my experience, I've always, when I was younger, I definitely had, it wasn't the more masculine energy, it was more the age. I was going out with older guys who had more money, and they asked me out and they paid for the date. Now in the last several years, and I'm talking like 25 plus, it seems very Dutch, that has been kind of the way. But now I feel like tonight I'm going to go on a date, but I asked my friend that we've gone out several times, I said, I want to take you out. And he's told me he doesn't really date much. And he's almost kind of like has anxiety about the whole dating. And I said, well, it's not like we just met. I've known him since last summer. We've gone hiking. We've slept together several times and seen him at the Eagle and chatted a ton. So this isn't new. So just think of it as we're having dinner. But because I asked him, I'm going to pay for it tonight. But it does. And by the way, I don't think either one of us, we're on the same level of masculinity if we're just to go with this story. But you sent this story over, Kodi. So what do you say? What's your thoughts on who should pay? Should the one with more masculine energy pay? And is this even a viable topic?
Of course, I think it's a viable topic. I think it's one that we should definitely be having as gay men, because I feel like if I say I go on a date with somebody that is more feminine than me, that does not mean that I'm paying for them. Our rules are a little bit different as gay men.
Well, you're a blouse.
So my feminine energy is on 100 too. But I feel like, just like you're doing tonight, Steve, whoever invites the other person out, that is who pays. And that is the rule that I've gone by in my relationships. That's the rule that I've gone by as far as dating is concerned. And I feel like that is going to be my rule going forward, because if you ask me on a date, that means you want to get to know me. That means you should be paying for my cab to get there. That means you should be paying for all of my
come on.
Okay, maybe not the cab.
We're not paying a cab for you to get to New York from Kansas. Thank you so much. Or a flight.
You don't know. You don't know my life, what I could do. So they should be paying to get my toes done. They should be paying. See, they should be paying for my horse for me to get to where I'm going, because I'm in Kansas and that's our mode of transportation here. But no, I see what you're saying. Seriously. I do think that whoever asks the other person out, that is who should be paying for the bill, because we're gay men. And at the end of the day, our rules are a little bit different. So Yeah.
They're definitely different. And I remember a time where I had a guy and he was like paying for everything. And this is back in LA in the early 2000s. And then he would complain, not to me, like later we remained friends. And he was like, oh, I feel like I'm always covering for these boys and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, because you always put that out there first. It's like, what do you expect? I mean, you want to act like Daddy Warbucks and like you've got all, and he did. He had like great cars, great house, and all that. And you want to show off all that. You want to initially pay for them, and then when you start to lose interest a little bit, this was his mo. He would then start to complain to me like, "Oh, I feel like I'm always." It's like because that's what you started, so don't do that anymore. Jeremy, how do you weigh in on who should be paying on the date?
I honestly don't think that there's any parameters of who should or shouldn't pay. I think that it's really nice to be paid for, and it's great when someone takes you out to dinner or invites you and then they pick up the tab. But I honestly don't mind switching off and picking up like every other dinner or every other round of drinks and stuff like that. So I really don't think it's that serious, and I don't think that it has anything whatsoever to do with your masculinity level or femininity or any of that. I think
Yeah,
that
I don't
it's
either.
it's a lot simpler than that, and I don't think that it also has to do with someone making a lot more money unless they're like shoving it in your face. And if they are doing that, it usually doesn't end up like a great balance, I
Yeah.
feel like, in the relationship or like whatever you're trying to blossom into. So I think that taking it less seriously and not putting a label on this person has to always pay because they make a lot more money or any of that. I think just casually offering when you want to, and sometimes going Dutch, sometimes picking up the tab because it was your idea or you picked the restaurant. It can be a lot more thoughtful and casual about just a tab in general.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Kodi, when I saw that clip, it seemed very archaic, the whole conversation. Now, he was out with a straight man, and so it was sort of different, but
Yeah.
hopefully we're beyond the whole masculine, feminine energy, and that should, because I feel like as a community, we're way past that.
I believe
And
so too.
by the way, I have a longstanding friend, Jeremy. I think you know he's Russian, and he is very masculine, and we're dear friends. It's a very warped relationship. I will just say that, but it's great. We love each other, and I typically pick up the bill on that one. And he couldn't be more masculine, and we have a great time. And I've also been out with people. Don't do this, Jeremy. You'll get this one. Do not say you'll pay for my bill and then on Monday morning ask me to pay for it after you told me you were going to cover my check. Don't do that.
Oh no. You know
Yeah,
what I saw
that
something
happened to
on
me in real life. So yeah, don't do
Wow.
that.
I saw on Instagram that somebody offered to buy another guy a drink and then asked him to split the bill for the drink.
Oh,
Oh
see,
my
yeah,
god.
people get so weird with that stuff. It's like, first of all, come with your own money. Be
Exactly.
prepared. Always be prepared. But because there's always going to be these weird, foolish people out there that like want to act like big shots, and then you're left with the bill in the end, and it's
But
like,
can I get
huh.
$5 though? No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. Good luck on that. Oh my gosh, so much fun as always, and loved chatting with you guys. And you can always follow my co-host. You can follow Jeremy on Instagram. Maybe see his soft launching of his new beau. You can follow him
Woo.
at J Ross Lopez. At J Ross Lopez. Follow Kodi. He's a life coach at KMD Coaching, or his personal account at Mr. Maurice. Don't forget, he's got a brand new single, Talk About It, available everywhere. Wherever you download your music, talk about it. It's really good. And yep, you can get it everywhere. And follow me on the gram. I am _Steve V. or go to my Twitter account at TAGSPodcast, where you can see a preview and the link to my OnlyFans. And I'm posting stuff every week, new content coming out soon. Kodi and I are live this Wednesday with Tags Live at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, or you'll be at a little bit different time, right, Kodi?
I'll be at 8 o'clock in Central Time. Loving it.
Love it for our central listening audience. And in the meantime, continue having
hot
gay
sex.
Lovely.